Let's talk about something pretty amazing. A way to take a massive waste problem in Vietnam and turn it into, well, something you could call black gold. Today, we're diving into how a simple, almost ancient idea is tackling a huge environmental issue and creating a foundation for a much greener future. First, you have to get your head around the sheer scale of this. Every single year, Vietnam's agricultural powerhouse produces over 100 million tons of byproducts. We're talking rice straw, husks, all that stuff. So the big question is, where does it all go? Well, the answer is probably not what you're hoping for. And wow, this chart right here really tells the story. A little bit gets used for animal feed or mushroom growing, sure. But look at that huge slice. A staggering 83% of all that rice straw is just burned, right there in the open fields. We're talking about millions upon millions of tons of potential value literally going up in smoke. And look, this isn't just harmless campfire smoke. This open burning releases a nasty cocktail of pollutants. You've got CO2, carbon monoxide, and these really dangerous tiny particles called PM 2.5 that can get deep into your lungs. It's a huge problem for local air quality and, of course, a direct contributor to climate change. Okay, so we've got this massive environmental problem, this huge amount of waste. But what if there was a better way? A way to stop the burning and turn all that waste into something incredibly valuable? Well, there is. So let's get into the solution. It's called biochar. So what in the world is biochar? Put simply, it's a very special carbon-packed charcoal. You make it by taking biomass, like all that rice straw we were just talking about, and heating it up in a container that has very, very little oxygen. That whole process is called pyrolysis, and it completely changes the game. And you can really see the transformation right here. I mean, look at that. On the left, you've got the bulky, lightweight, low-value rice husks. And on the right, you get this dense, dark, valuable product. It is the perfect picture of turning trash into treasure. So why is this stuff so special? Well, it all comes down to its structure. The best way to think about it is like a carbon sponge. It is incredibly porous. It's filled with all these microscopic nooks and crannies. That structure makes it amazing at holding on to water and nutrients in the soil. Plus, it creates the perfect home for all the beneficial microbes that keep soil healthy and alive. This all sounds fantastic, right? But how do you actually make this black gold? You might be picturing some huge, complex industrial plant, but the reality is actually so much simpler and more accessible than you'd think. Let's take a look. The process, pyrolysis, is actually pretty straightforward. You just load your biomass into a special kiln. You heat it up, but, and this is the key part, you starve it of oxygen. So instead of burning into ash, all the volatile gases cook off, and what you're left with is that stable, solid carbon structure. And that, my friends, is your biochar. And this right here, this is the real game changer. This process doesn't need a high-tech, multi-million-dollar factory. The diagram here shows a kiln that can be built using simple bricks. It's low cost, it's effective, and it's simple enough for individual farmers or small communities to build and operate themselves. This is technology that empowers people. So, is it actually efficient? Is it worth the effort? You bet it is. It's incredibly efficient. Research done in Vietnam shows that from 100 kilograms of rice straw, you can produce over 48 kilograms of biochar. That's a conversion rate of nearly 50%. You're turning almost half of that waste into a genuinely valuable product. Okay, so we've figured out how to make it. Now for the really exciting part. What happens when you take this amazing material and put it back into the soil where this whole story started? And hey, don't just take my word for it. A report from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization basically says the exact same thing. They highlight that the single biggest, most attractive opportunity for biochar in Vietnam is using it directly in the fields to make soil healthier and grow better crops. Now, remember how we called it a sponge for nutrients? Well, it's even better than that. It actually brings its own nutrients to the party. This table shows that biochar made from rice straw contains essential plant food like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it's not just holding on to nutrients, it's actively adding them back into the soil. But the benefits just keep stacking up. It improves the soil structure, making it less compacted so roots can breathe. Because it holds on to nutrients so well, farmers need to use less chemical fertilizer, which saves money and is great for the environment.
It can even lock up nasty contaminants like heavy metals. And, crucially for our climate, it locks that carbon way in the soil for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. So, when you add all of this up, you start to see that biochar is way more than just a soil additive. It really represents a whole new vision for what sustainable agriculture could look like in Vietnam. It's what you'd call a triple win solution. It's a win for the environment because you're slashing air pollution and capturing carbon. It's an economic win because you're creating a new income stream for farmers from something they used to just burn. And it's a social win because you're giving communities a simple, powerful, and sustainable tool to improve their own livelihoods.
What this really represents is the circular economy in action. You see, instead of a straight line where you grow, harvest, and then have waste, biochar closes the loop. It creates a circle. The waste from the harvest gets turned into a tool that regenerates the soil, which in turn leads to better harvests and more value in the next cycle. It's a beautiful system. So it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Could this humble black gold, created from stuff that was once just a nuisance, actually be a key to unlocking a greener, healthier, and more prosperous future for Vietnam? When you look at all the evidence, the potential is just immense.